Is now called to order. Thank you for attending this public hearing of the Senate Committee on Migrant Workers. At this point, allow me to acknowledge the presence of Senator Erwin Tulfo. Thank you, Senator Erwin, for coming. With that, I hereby declare the presence of a quorum. Okay, may I now request the committee secretary to state our agenda for today and acknowledge our resource persons and guests both physically and virtually. ComSec, please.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. For today's agenda of the Committee on Migrant Workers, joint with the Committees on Civil Service, Government Reorganization, and Professional Regulation and Finance. There are two sets of agenda. Number one is the Bagong Balikbayan Act, joint with the Committee on Finance, Senate Bills number 1100, introduced by Senator Gatchalian. Senate Bill number 1776, introduced by Senator Go. Senate Bill number 1820, introduced by Senator Villanueva. And Senate Bill number 1839, introduced by the Chair, Senator Raffy Tulfo. Taking in consideration House Bill number 6643. The second set is the Migrant Workers Relations Commission Act, joint with the Committee on Civil Service, Government Reorganization, and Professional Regulation and Finance, with Senate Bill number 1480, introduced by the Chair, Senator Raffy Tulfo. Invited resource persons who are here today are as follows. From the Department of Migrant Workers, the Honorable Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak, together with Undersecretary Bernard Olalia and Assistant Secretary, Director Rosalyn Ramos. From the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, we have Undersecretary Patricia Yvonne Kaunan, the Administrator, together with Attorney Ana Patricia Jacobo and Ms. Marivic Clarin. From the Department of Foreign Affairs, we have Assistant Secretary Ezedin Tago. From the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA, Executive Director Janet Abasalo. From the Civil Service Commission, Assistant Commissioner for Legal, Attorney Ariel Ronquillo, together with Director for Attorney Prisco Rivera Jr. From the Commission on Higher Education, CHED, we have the Chairperson, the Honorable Shirley Agrupis. From the Department of Labor and Employment, Assistant Secretary Adeline De Castro, together with Attorney Ramil Santiago Rial, Attorney Sheena Liz Balite, and the DLLO Ms. Jean Orsolino. From the Department of Agriculture, we have Assistant Secretary Genevieve Velicaria Guevara, together with Director Emeline Ricoter. From the Department of Trade and Industry, we have Assistant Secretary Dominic Tolentino, together with Director Susan Salonga and the Senior Vice President of the Small Business Corporation, Angelito Acupan. From OWA, we also have Deputy Administrator Ryan Vincent Uy and Deputy Administrator Jasmine Gapatan. From the Department of Interior and Local Government, we have Attorney Noel Sala, together with Carl Quinones. From the Department of Social Welfare and Development, Assistant Secretary Sabedin Aziz, together with Director April Ann Dizon. From the Department of Budget and Management, Assistant Secretary Leonido Pulido III. From the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, Director Marian Santos. From the National Labor Relations Commission, Attorney Hernan Nicdao. From the National Conciliation and Mediation Board, Deputy Executive Director Teresita Udea, together with Attorney Rubilin Abando. From the private organizations and associations, Mr. Chairman, we have the Associated Marine Officers and Seamen's Union of the Philippines, or AMOSUP, represented by Attorney Henry Zamora. From the Filipino Association for Mariners Employment Incorporated, Captain Ronaldo S.J. Enrile. From the United Filipino Seafarers, Judy Domingo, the President. From the Association of Licensed Manning Agencies, Captain Antonio Ladera III, the President. From the Philippine Association of Service Exporters Incorporated, Raquel Bracero, Director, together with Attorney Nestor Tolentino. From the Public Employment Service Office Managers Association of the Philippines, the President Romualdo Garcia, together with Luningning Vergara, Kathleen Kate Sorilla, and Miss Cinderella Palomar. From the People Management Association of the Philippines, the Attorney Carmelo Aguilar Jr., the General Counsel. We are also in receipt, Mr. Chairman, of the submission by the National Conciliation and Mediation Board of their position paper on Senate Bill number 1480. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Committee Sec. Senator Erwin Tulfo, our resource persons and guests, good morning. Thank you for attending today's committee hearing of the Senate Committee on Migrant Workers. Before we start the discussion on the bills in today's agenda, hindi po natin maiwasan na pag-usapan muna ng ating mga OFWs sa Middle East. Tinatayang mayroong 2.44 million ang OFWs natin sa gitnang silangan. Ang nangangambang ma-displace, mawalan ng trabaho at mapilitang umuwi dito sa Pilipinas dahil sa tumitinding bakbakan. Importante mapag-usapan natin kung paano natin sila mapapauwi at paano natin sila sasaluin pagdating nila dito sa Pilipinas. Ngayon pa lang, madami na pong humingi ng saklolo sa aking tanggapan upang sila ay makabalik. I will be asking the DMW and OWA on updates regarding our contingency plans. Because after 5 days of airstrikes and bombings across the Middle East, mukhang magtatagal pa po ito ng ilang linggo and we don't know. Mayroon ba tayong nakaabang na assets and resources to bring them home? May exit points ba tayong in place if airspace opens or if maritime passage is finally permitted? Hindi lang ang mga mismong OFWs ang apektado, pati na rin ang kanilang pamilya dito sa Pilipinas at maging ang ating ekonomiya, of course. Repatriation will mean sudden stoppage of remittances to their families and the expected negative impact on our economy. Once they come home, what is in store for them? Dito pumapasok ang kahalagaan ng reintegration. The National Reintegration Bill or proposed Bagong Balikbayan Act is one of the priority bills under LEDAC at talagang napapanahon para maipasa na natin ito. Lalo na ngayong may mga pangyayari kagaya ng nangyayari ngayon sa Middle East crisis. While we have existing reintegration programs under the DMW, there is obviously a need to strengthen and institutionalize these measures and to expand their reach. We must ensure that the smooth, sustainable, and productive transition of our OFWs back to their homeland, whether they be documented or undocumented, and whether they're coming home by virtue of contract completion or under emergency circumstances. Nakaantabay at nakahanda dapat ang ating gobyerno para saluin sila pagbalik ng bansa. Thus, we must establish a comprehensive support system that will provide kaalaman, kabuhayan, at kalingap. We have remembered that working overseas is merely a temporary state. Ang pagiging OFW ay isang starting point or take-off lamang. Sa pamamagitan ng panukalang batas na ito, mabibigyan natin ng pagkakataon ang ating mga OFWs na tuluyang mapalago ang kanilang kabuhayan. The ultimate goal is to come home to their families and live a sustainable life. Finally, we will discuss the possibility of creating a body to address and resolve OFW concerns. I filed this proposed measure on the creation of a Migrant Workers Relations Commission after I visited the NLRC months ago. I was approached by 4 OFW nurses who pleaded for help dahil matagal na silang nakauwi sa Pilipinas pero hindi pa sila nakakabalik sa kanilang probinsya. Dahil sa tagal ng pagresolba ng kanilang mga claims. Nalilito sila sa proseso. Pagkatapos mag-file sa DMW, bakit kinailangan pang maglitis at maghintay sa NLRC? Nakasakripisyo na nga sa ibang bansa, pagbalik dito, pahirapan pa. Sus Maria Josep, nagkasakripisyo na nga sa ibang bansa. Tapos dito, parang ginigipit o iniipit, so to speak. We all know that justice delayed is justice denied. Our goal here is to improve and make the process easier and faster for our OFWs. With that being said, magandang umaga po sa lahat. And now, Senator Erwin Tulfo, if you have an opening statement, please do so.
Thank you, Sen. Rafi. Una po sa lahat, nais ko pong i-welcome yung mga kababayan po natin na nakarating kanina. At salamat po sa Diyos, nakarating po kayo na matiwasay. Doon po sa mga kababayan natin nag-aantay pa for repatriation, patuloy po ang aming panalangin. Gayon din po, ginagawan po ng pamahalaan natin ang lahat na magagawa nila, DMW, OWA at DFA. At naghahanapan po tayo ng solusyon na paano po kayo maiuwin lahat. Subalit, sarado nga po ang airspace. Anyway, tulad pong nang nabanggit po ni Sen. Rafi, problema nga po anong aabutan ng ating mga OFW rito pag sila po'y bumalik na. Sa loob po ng maraming taon, hindi po matatawaran ang sakripisyo ng ating mga OFW upang maitaguyod po ng mas maganda ang kinabukasan para po sa kanilang pamilya. At hindi lang po sa pamilya, kundi sa ating bayan din. OFW po ang driving force, kaya lutang pa po ang ekonomiya natin. Alisin po natin yung mga OFW na yan, baka bagsak po ating ekonomiya. Subalit hangad din natin na dumating ang panahon sila ay makauwi ng tuluyan at makapiling kanilang mga mahal sa buhay. Ang kanilang pagbabalik ay hindi dapat maging biglaan at kulang sa direksyon ng suporta. Kinakailangan natin ang kahandaan, isang maayos, koordinado at pangmatagalang programa na tutulong sa kanilang muling pag-angkop sa buhay sa Pilipinas, sa paghahanap ng disenteng kabuhayan at sa pagtataguyod ng matatag na kinabukasan sa sariling bayan. Ang pagtatatag ng isang comprehensive, integrated at sustainable reintegration program ay mahalagang hakbang upang matiyak na ang bawat pagbabalik ng ating mga kababayan ay may kasamang dignidad, oportunidad at konkretong suporta mula sa pamahalaan. Naway maging makabuluhan ang ating talakayan upang makabuo tayo ng batas na tunay po na magbibigay halaga at magsisilbi sa ating mga bagong balikbayan. Ito rin po ang nakita nating problema noong nakaraang bicameral conference po namin dahil ang hiningi po, ang sinabi po natin ng inyong lingkod, kailangan nating dagdagan ang pondo para sa mga OFW, lalo na ng DMW at saka ng OWA. Ang request po, ang pinopose po namin nung nakaraang budget, 2 billion po para sa DMW OSEC at 1.2 billion po sa DMW OSEC, 2 billion naman sa OWA. Subalit ang pinagbigyan lamang tayo 800 po sa OSEC ng DMW, 500 million sa OWA. Dahilan po niyan ay budget constraint. Pero kung ako po lamang ang tatanungin, na-anticipate ko na po ito na magkakaroon ng problema. Ang sinasabi din po kasi ng DBM ay low utilization rate. Kaya mababa po, kaya yung NEP na request nila ay binawasan noon. Kaya nga po, hiniling natin sa BICAM na taasan. Ngayon, na-realize, sana po ma-realize ng ating ehekutibo na kailangan talagang dagdagan ang pondo ng dalawang ahensyang ito, lalo na po sa mga panahon na ito. Mga panahon po na nagkakaroon ng krisis. After all, ika nga, ang major industry po ng ating bayan ay pagpapadala ng human power. Yung po ang ini-export natin. Kaya nararapat lamang na siguruhin natin na protektado ang ating mga OFW. Kapag kailangan nilang umuwi, ay may uwi agad. At kapag kailangan nilang ayaw na nilang bumalik sa ibang bansa, may trabaho pong mag-aantay sa kanila. Maraming salamat. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.
Thank you, Senator Erwin. Bago tayo mag-umpisa doon sa ating pinaka-agenda tungkol sa reintegration program, nais ko lamang kumuha ng update sa ating mga kinaukulan, DMW and OWA. Kanina nakita ko nga, na-monitor ko sa airport. Congrats, like I said earlier. Masaya tingnan na meron tayong mga kababayan na napauwi ng ligtas at kita ko naman sa mga mukha nila, masaya sila, kontento sila at especially ang kanilang pamilya pagdating nila ng bahay nila. Now, what is the current situation sa Middle East? Because kanina nabasa ko sa dyaryo, yung ating Pangulo nagsabi na merong 1,416 na mga OFWs from different Middle Eastern countries affected by this gulo ang gusto magpa-repatriate. So, meron ba tayong contingency plan for these 1,416 DMW or OWA? DMW Secretary Kakdak, sir.
Magandang umaga po, Senators Raffy Tulfo and Erwin Tulfo, Senator Erwin Tulfo and my colleagues in government, stakeholders in migration governance. Ang essentially po, nasa apat na larangan po ang ating ginagalawan in terms of yung ating contingency protocols sa oras ng pangangailangan. Una po yung pre-departure at transit assistance dun sa mga na-stranded, hindi makalipad o di kaya naipit sa abroad. At nagbibigay po tayo ng information, registration sa database, immediate assistance, accommodation, food, transportation, tulong sa rebooking. At kung nasa transit hub na po, katulad ng Hong Kong, naipit sa Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, etc., ay tinutulungan po nating makauwi. Higit kumulang po 1,200 na po natulungan natin na stranded OFWs and counting. Ito po yung hindi nakarating. Stranded sila at hindi nakarating sa kanilang patutunguhan sa Gulf States, sa Dubai o sa Israel. Doon po sa on-site assistance ay nagbibigay po tayo ng tulong in terms of yung welfare, food, water, basic necessities, medical and psychosocial assistance, transport and financial assistance. At sa ngayon po ay umabot na sa 2,000 ang natulungan natin. May limitasyon po, aminin natin, in terms of ang host countries po kasi, ang payo din ay everybody stay indoors. Lumayo sa mga bintana, as much as possible sa lower ground floors manatili so that binabalanse po natin. Ayaw din natin hikayatin yung mga kababayan natin magtungo sa MWO kasi baka pumila, baka magdagsa and thereby put them in harm's way. But 2,000 na po ang natulungan natin, food, water, basic necessities, medical, psychosocial assistance, financial assistance, and transport. Ang mga host countries po may sarili ding shelters. So, kasama po tayo sa pag-facilitate, pagbigay ng impormasyon kung saan pwedeng tumungo ang kababayan natin sa public shelters. In the case of Israel, yung nabanggit po kanina sa video, may residential shelters po sila, bomb shelters. And then, meron din po tayong sariling tayo mismo may accommodation facilities to augment or to supplement the host country accommodation services. So meron din tayong mga designated hotels, doon din natin tinatakbo yung mga kababayan natin na otherwise hindi makapunta sa host government shelters.
Teka muna, may interrupt. Sabi mo, ini-invite natin yung mga OFWs natin na pumunta sa mga designated hotels. Meron ba mga bomb shelters, itong mga hotels na nirekomenda natin na puntahan nila?
Meron din pong safety rooms yung mga hotels na yon at saka lower ground floors lang tayo, Chair. Hindi po natin pinipili yung mga hotels na matataas. So doon sa mga safe ground hotels po. In the case of certain areas, hindi ko na po babanggitin saan for safety reasons, tukoy naman natin Chair, kung saan ang prime targets ng Iran o kung Israel yan sa Lebanon, alam na natin kung saan ang tinutukoy na target. So may idea na tayo kung ano yung mga spared areas. So doon din natin pinipili yung mga accommodations that we have. Ngayon po, when it comes to repatriation itself, we work hand in hand closely. Inatasan po kami ng ating Pangulo ni Secretary Tess Lazaro to help in terms of on-site services, number one, and repatriation services. So ngayon, nagpapatala po tayo sa repatriation services natin. At kanina ay naiulat po natin sa media nung nasa airport kami na higit kumulang 1,900 ang repatriation assistance requests na tanggap natin. This morning, we had our first wave, I should say, commercial flights via Emirates, lumipad from Dubai, naglanding 299 Filipinos. At meron ho tayong mga services para sa kanila. Hindi ho lahat ay OFWs. With respect to OFWs, meron ng services on-site pa lamang hanggang sa kanilang pag-uwi dito. Meron na naman serbisyong inihandog kami ni Admin PY at di lang kami ni Admin PY ng OWA, kundi DSWD at DOH ay nandoon din po. Yun pong effort na ito is the commercial flight segment. That's one option. By air. Pero sabi nga ho ng Pangulo natin, safety is paramount. It would be useless to undertake a repatriation effort if we put everybody in harm's way, lalo na kung may masaktan. Kaya
Sec, I have one question muna.
Apo.
I'm sorry to interrupt, and then Senator Erwin has a question as well. Paano po nasosort out yung mga OFWs natin na tumatawag po sa different offices ng DMWs and OWA at gustong magpalista para ma-repatriate? Ano yan? On an emergency basis, kung talagang kailangan ka na ma-repatriate, at kung ikaw ay hindi pa masyado magulo yung sa lugar mo, ikaw ang susunod. Meron ba tayong listahang system, if you will? And then number two, marami kasi ako nakatanggap ng mga comments sa Facebook account ko, especially sa Riyadh, Bahrain, hindi raw sumasagot sa hotline yung mga staff ng DMW at saka OWA and even DFA.
ito ipatitignan natin, Mr. Chair. Kukunin na lang ho namin yung impormasyon kasi nga po may hotlines talaga designated at sa
Ayan po,
post. We will get the...
Marami po yan, siguro mga mahigit 100. Siguro, maybe in fairness to you guys, baka overwhelmed kayo, nabibising hotline. Kaso sinasabi ring lang daw. So, and then
Opo.
also, Sec, meron din mga comments na nauna pa yung mga tauhan ng DMW OWA na mag-absent at wag nang pumasok, samantalang sila, mga OFW, pumapasok. Dahil yun ang utos sa kanilang amo, samantalang mga nasa embahada, nasa DMW at OWA, wala na, nagsitaguan na. So dapat, ang advice ko, kailangan, hanggat may OFW tayo doon, kumaga parang captain of the ship, di ba? Pilot of the airplane, nandoon kayo para masiguro, mabigyan ng guidance at mapalakas ang loob nito mga OFWs natin na kinakabahan at pinipilit pa rin ng mga amo magtrabaho despite the dangers.
Definitely, Mr. Chair, ang instruction po ngayon, all hands on deck. Those are my exact words. Everybody, walang mag-absent. Everybody should be there. Everybody should be working on the ground. This is not the time to be absent. Tama po kayo. We agree completely. Makakatulong po, Chair Sen, kung matukoy kung sino po yung mga taong nag-absent. But nevertheless, I will have our HR teams take stock of who is absent and who is not. Definitely, ang instructions po ay ako po mismo ay present. Kaya I also show my people na parati
Trap
po
lang ha,
akong...
ang bilis lang. Yan o, isang comment. Dito nga sa Bahrain, may advisor sila na close sila bukas March 1. This was several days ago. Sino ang sasagot sa amin, mga multo ng OWA dito sa Bahrain? Hi Lord, na lang, bahala sa amin. So, ibig sabihin, yan nga po, marami ang ganun na nauna pang magsarado ang opisina ng OWA or DMW or DFA, nauna pa at mag-absent. So, siguro we make sure
Opo. Yeah,
this
yes.
time na bukas po lahat ng matanggapan natin.
Yes. March 1 was the day when we had a series of Zoom calls, Zoom chats. Kasi Feb 28 po nangyari, no? So the next day, nagpulong kami lahat, including the ambassadors of the DFA, with our labor office personnel, welfare officers, labor attachés, administrative staff. Nakita ko po sa sarili kong mata sa Zoom call yung tao natin sa Bahrain, labor attaché natin at welfare officers. But nevertheless, Mr. Chair, we will look deeper into this. But definitely, I saw all of us at work because March 1 was the day after the attacks, and immediately we had a series of calls, and they all received their instructions from myself directly, and definitely the clear instruction was all hands on deck. Mr. Chair. At kung meron pong nagkulang, gusto ko lang din po malaman ng pangalan at I will look into this, Mr. Chair, Mr. Sem. But rest assured, we are all hands on deck. Hindi po itong panahon na magpahuway o mag-absent o ano paman. And we will
Senator
enforce
Erwin?
this to the letter.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I-address ko lang po itong tanungan ko, pati po sa DFA. Kahit po ako naka-experience po niyan dahil meron po kong kasamahan dati sa trabaho, nasa Dubai po ngayon. Yung mga pinablish po ng DFA ng mga telephone number nila, email, wala po sumasagot. So I have to call Secretary Lazaro, I think the other day. Ring lang daw ho ng ring. Then finally may sumagot, nung tinawag Secretary Lazaro to alert them, may sumagot na. That shouldn't be the case po Ngayon tayong kailangan ng mga tao na ito. We have to show them na there is government, yung gobyerno nila, hindi sila pinapabayaan. Kung wala pong sasagot, kahit to siguro ako you put ourselves, let's put ourselves in their shoes, tatawag ako emergency, kinakabahan ako, walang sasagot, walang mapuntahan. What does it tell you? Pinabayaan kami ng gobyerno. Remit kami ng pera, binubuhay namin yung ekonomiya ng Pilipinas. Pagdatingin sa trouble, nasaan yung gobyerno namin? Don't do that kasi nakaka-frustrate ho yun. Okay? Maaring kayo ho dito sa liderato sa Maynila, sa Pilipinas, you're all up and ready. Pero yung mga tao ho ninyo doon, hindi ko malaman kung natatakot. Kung natatakot ho yung mga yung paalayasin na lang ninyo, paresign ninyo yung mga tao ninyo, akala siguro dapat pati sa gyera, dapat handa po lahat ng empleyado ho ninyo, DMW, OWA, DFA. Pagbo-volunteer sila assign doon, ano ba assign para magbiyahe, lalo sa Dubai, mamasyal, mga allowances. Ngayon sila kailangan nandoon kayo present. Kasi yung moral support ang hinahanap ng mga yon, wala kayo. Paano na lang yan? Please, DMW, OWA, at saka DFA, check yung mga hotline na binigay ninyo na may sasagot po na tao dyan. Pangalawa, may katanungan lang po, Secretary Kakdak. Yung aeroplano na nagdala po ng mga pasahero, tuloy-tuloy na po ba ito yung Emirates o isang one-time lang ito na flight kanina, wala na bukas?
Mr. Chair, sa pagkakaalam ko, may susunod pa hong flights. However, again, ang situation is fluid on a day-to-day basis. Sa pagkakaalam ko ay meron pang susunod. But again, we have to weigh the security circumstances and options. The situation is very fluid at this stage. So hindi ko rin po masigurado kung merong susunod pa, sunod-sunod, ibig sabihin every day. But definitely may susunod pong flight dito. Same time tomorrow.
Right, maraming salamat. That's all for me, Sen. Rafi.
Okay, Sec, gusto natin magpa-repatriate ng mga kababayan natin na naipit doon sa Middle Eastern countries. At maraming mga airport ay sarado at yung airspace nga nila. So, paano yung mga gustong umuwi na talaga? Pero and the only way is out is land transportation. So, meron ba tayong mga contingency program plans para may transport by land at punta sa much safer places itong mga OFWs natin?
Yes, Mr. Chair, ito rin po ang pinag-utos ng ating Pangulo to look at alternative options. So indeed, meron tayong alternative options. Kung sarado ang airspace at ang airport, so we have land transport options crossing the border from the country affected to a safer country, safer ground, and from there lilipad po pauwi. So ang mga plano po natin include land transport to the border. And hindi ko lang po matukoy sa ngayon yung detalye for security reasons, but we have identified the exit points, we have identified the meeting points, the pickup points in country, and the exit points to the border. And then kung ano pong klaseng mode of transport, so it's either commercial or chartered naman po ang options out of the safer country. So yun po ang ating strategy sa ngayon. And for the last couple of 24 hours, nagte-test run na po yung mga tao natin to see, kasi yan ang isa sa considerations ni Pangulo, make sure that the repatriation routes are safe. So nag-test run na po yung mga tao natin dun sa routes. Ongoing po ito. Kasi ang kinaharap po natin ngayon, mga 5 bansa po ito na pinag-uusapan nating itatawid natin to kanya-kanyang border crossings. So we are monitoring and managing these logistical efforts, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Sa alert level, Sec Hans, there was a time, I think there was a couple of days, na hindi kayo magkatugma sa pagtaas ng alert level, kayo sa DMW at sa DFA. Gusto kong malaman ngayon, current situation, ano bang alert level sa bawat countries? Sana magkatugma yung DFA at saka DMW. And kasi alam ko pag alert level 4, mandatory yun, evacuation. Meron ba tayong alert level 4 na bansa? Sige po, pakibanggit, ASEC Tago ng DFA.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sir, can I also add just about the hotline situation? The Secretary Tess Lazaro did send me the message by Senator Erwin Tulfo, and I did send a message to all our embassies. In fact, ako po ang tumawag personally at saka yung staff ko, kaya na-contact ko yung mga ibang ambassador on my phone. Ganon din, sir, sa yesterday there was also a query from your office about some of the hotlines. Because of that, we asked them to update the numbers, and we are now on a daily basis going to continue to repost and republish yung mga number. Kagabi din inulit ko po sa meeting ko, virtual meeting ko with the ambassadors kahapon, sending also the message by the president sa kanyang press briefing na kailangan 24/7 ang accessibility ng mga line. Inexplain lang po ng Israel that pag meron siren at nasa baba sila sa shelter, hindi sila maka-receive ng tawag. Pero pwedeng WhatsApp call. In-explain din ng Iran that hindi sila nakakatanggap ng international call kung yung tawag galing sa labas, yung mga phone nila nakablock yung international call. Sir, on the alert level, I wish to just confirm the following alert levels. Can I get for GCC also?
Okay, sir, before you mention that alert level, sino nagde-determine kung anong alert level ang i-raise sa bawat lugar na apektado nitong gulo? At paano na bibigyan ng numero, meaning alert level, yung bansang yon? Ano yung sukatan? Ano yung gauge ninyo? And then go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, there is a list of the definitions of the alert levels from 1 to 4. Usually, it starts with the recommendation of our embassy, and then it goes to the department. Several offices give their.
So, yung embassy ang nagde-determine kung anong alert level ba ang i-raise natin sa isang bansa.
Sir,
You made that
nagre-recommend.
determination.
Silang initial recommendation po, or
Hindi doon sa dami ng bombang bumabagsak sa bansa. So, halimbawa, bumabagsak 10 bomba araw-araw. So, is that how you based it? Or kung ano lang isipin ng embahada, gawin natin alert level 3 ngayon. O medyo tahimik, gawin natin alert level 1. Ganun
actually,
ba yun?
sir, there's a definition for
Kaya
each.
nga, i-define it to us yung how the alert level being put up in a certain
1 second, sir.
place na affected dun sa bombings. Meaning, how is it being issued? Kasi may mga the reason why I'm raising this issue, ASEC, may mga OFW nagsasabi na napakinggan ko po sa Facebook nyo na kami dito ay alert level 1 lang daw, alert level 2. Hindi po, mali yun. Sunod-sunod po yung pagbobomba rito sa malapit lang sa amin, sa lugar namin. Bakit sabi-sabi sa alert level 1? Dapat po nakataas na kami alert level 4 dahil 5, 6 na bomba nang na napakinggan namin na bumagsak sa malapit sa lugar na pinagtrabaho namin, etc.
Sir, Mr. Chair, babasahin ko yung
Sen, may interject. Ang tinutukoy po namin, ASEC, ano po ang pamantayan na to raise it from level 1, level 2? Tama po ba, Sen Rafi? Kung ano,
That's correct.
ano ho ang inyong pinagbabasihan? At paano ho kayo, how do you arrive at that level? Is it because report lang ng inyong ambasador? O report o feedback po ng mga tao natin doon, yung mga kababayan natin? Paano po ninyo na nasasabi na, taas na natin itong alert level at delikado na? Decision lang po ba yun ng ambasador at saka ng secretary or basing doon sa report ng mga kababayan natin, ASEC Tago?
Yes, sir. Actually, I wish to clarify though na kahit anong level ng alert level, kahit anong level yung alert, the Department of Foreign Affairs, yung assistance to nationals, pati yung DMW, we are ready to repatriate anyone who asks for help, no matter what the alert level is. That has been the case in so many countries and also in GCC now. So kahit yung alert level ay 1 or 2, kung may hihingi ng tulong, the instructions to us is to make sure that the movement
I know, sir.
is,
I know, sir. But
yes, sir.
what we're trying to say here is, yung bang mag-issue kayo ng tamang information dissemination at this juncture is very important, very crucial and critical, especially to these affected na mga OFWs natin sa iba't ibang lugar na nagsasabing parang kampante pa yung mga kinaukulan dito sa atin na sinasabing alert. Kasi pag alert level 1, di ba parang chill-chill lang, sabi nga nila, huwag magproblema. Paano kami naging alert level 1 samantalang sunod-sunod yung mga bombang tumatama sa mga lugar malapit sa amin? Dapat to alert level 4 para kami ma-evacuate na. Kasi pag alert level 3 and 4, meron silang tinatawag priority sa evacuation. Tama ba? As opposed to dun sa alert level 1 ng mga lugar. Okay, pag ikaw ay nasa alert level 3 o alert level 4 na lugar, mas meron kang prioridad sa repatriation. Am I right?
Sir, I think the factor that had been considered is that even if we raise to alert level 3 or 4, there is no, at this time, a safe way to move them. That was the wisdom there. But if you, we can...
So therefore, kapag nasa alert level 3, sabi mo, there's no way to evacuate them. Dapat meron na kayong contingency plan na kapag itong isang lugar, itong ibang bansa, nag-raise alert level 4, meron na kami naka-standby ng mga programa na para sila maalis sa lugar na yon. Halimbawa, kung siradong airspace, yun nga sinabi kanina ni Secretary Hans, yung land transportation na para sila ay maitawid sa ibang border na hindi magulo.
Actually, sir...
Dapat ngayon pa lamang meron tayong mga naka-contingency pa sa bawat bansa
Yes, sir.
na apektado na naka-standby na mga land transport na kinukontrata na natin in case tumaas sa kung anong alert level 3 or 4,
Actually,
mailabas sila.
Actually, sir, although ang part ng presentation ko din or update is that for countries such as right now Israel and also for Iran, which are under alert level 2 and 3, we are already planning a exit and evacuation for around. At first, last night they said 30, pero bumaba yung number to 12 from Iran. Makakalabas sila within the weekend. And also sa Israel, kaapon din, about the same time as the flight when they departed, nakalabas na rin yung 5 turista po
Okay.
from Israel
Okay.
through through a land border exit, and they're now in Egypt. But the definitions are long. If I can if I can, sir, I can submit the actual definitions for this, for the alert levels. We had recommended we had studied the increase or reduction of certain alert levels. It's ongoing every 6 months, and on Sunday we had submitted a recommendation for increase, but it has not yet been. We're in constant consultation with our ambassadors about it, sir.
Okay, yung mga seaport ba open? I know the airspace sarado, pero how about yung mga seaports ng mga bansang apektado? Are they open?
Mr. Chair, meron pong seaports pero ngayon hindi po advisable ang seaports mainly because sea transport is slower. And yung mga designated points po natin sa seas ay delikado rin po.
Okay.
Hindi ko lang matukoy yung mga precise for security reasons, but definitely it's still being considered, Mr. Chair. So that ngayon talagang land ang option natin. 6 po yung bansang pinag-uusapan natin kung saan tukoy ang tipanan kada bansa, kung saan magkikita, saan susunduin. 6 na exit points, tukoy din po lahat yan, border crossings, and the logistical means to transport, nakahanda na at nakatukoy na rin po, Mr. Chair, rest assured. It's just a matter of time, a matter of days. Timing is everything po sa ngayon. And yung pong instruction ni Pangulo, make sure that the host country authorities are in sync, know our movements, know what we are doing. So yun din po ay kino-coordinate din po natin through our embassies.
Aside po from calling the DMW and calling the DFA, what kinds of information dissemination ang ginagawa po ninyo para maimpormahan yung ating mga OFW na in case kailangan nyo gusto nyo ng tulong at gusto nyo ma-repatriate, ito yung mga pupuntahan nyo, ito yung mga dapat kukontakin nyo, ito yung mga dapat nyo gagawin. Do you have that kind of program?
We do, Mr. Chair. Since day one, actually, mula pa noong October 7, 2023, nandyan na yung mga advisories and protocols, general, and then kada post. May kanya-kanyang mga dissemination specific to each country. In addition po sa mga nabanggit nyo, the services that are available, saan pwedeng pumunta, magtipanan, yun pong host country protocols, mahalaga rin yun. Rinirelay din po namin sa mga kababayan natin. Halimbawa, kung yan ay may warning, kung Israel po yan, may warning, and then alarma. Kaya't ang sabi po ni Ambassador Eileen sa Israel, warning pa lang, gumalaw na. Huwag nang antayin yung siren. Kasi mabilis ang reaction time na kailangan pag siren. So, warning. Mga ganun pong klaseng payo, Mr. Chair, na dinidisseminate din po natin.
Kung may mga Pilipino gustong umuwi dito, they want to be repatriated, there are also mga kababayan natin who wants to go in. Yung mga na-stuck dyan sa airport. Dahil para sa kanila, okay naman yung bansa pupunta nila at kailangan na sila ng kanilang employers. So, is there a way na natutulungan natin silang masabi sa kanilang mga employer na naipit sila para pasensya na, walang flight, pabalik dito? So, how do we do it?
2 level po yan, Chair. Una, sa bansang apektado, yung Gulf States plus Israel, hindi ho makapasok talaga. So, madali lang naman ho magpaliwanag sa employers na hindi makakarating yung tao natin. So, maayos naman po yun. Ang kailangan lang po ng logistical assistance, yung mga pupunta, let's say, Europe, pero Doha o Dubai ang transit hub. So, yun naman po, tinutulungan natin mag-rebook. Either kami po ni Admin PY, Diretso, OWA, or we seek the help, kung seafarer yan, we seek the help of the manning agency. So sila naman po ang nag-aasikaso ng rebooking. So imbis na via Dubai, sasabihin via Bangkok or Hong Kong. Minsan pa, mina-stranded sa Ethiopia, 10 sila, Mr. Chair, natulungan po natin dahil na rin dun sa sa recruitment agency nila. So, isa rin po yung means na nakakatulong sila sa atin, yung mga recruitment agencies that help us in the flight rebooking. The airlines have also been very helpful. So, nagpapasalamat din po kami sa airlines. Hindi nila pinahihirapan. Walang, as far as we know, walang rebooking fees na charge. In-emphasize din ho yan ng NNIC, ng airport, kamakailan. At sabi rin po ng ating Pangulo, make sure na yung proseso ng rebooking ay hindi sagabal o hindi burden ng OFW passenger.
Kanina sa airport, nakita ko naman na live kayo sa Facebook at meron mga na-repatriate mga OFWs natin. Ilan po sila at saan galing mga bansa? And follow-up question to that, would this be on a regular basis na o ngayon lang and then yung sa susunod hindi pa ninyo alam?
Kanina po 299 Filipinos ang nakauwi and of the 299, 25 po ang OFWs.
Saan mga bansa po ito?
Karamihan po sa kanila merong mga iba-ibang bansa na yung kumbaga sila po yung in transit na nakansela yung flight. So naipit po sila sa Dubai. Kaya't ang ginawa ng airline, hinotel sila until sa pinagpatuloy uli yung biyahe at ito nga po yun. Yung iba naman po, galing talaga sa Dubai, may plano talagang umuwi ng Pilipinas, nag-book ng ticket, may flight pero nakansela. Pero yung OFWs po na nakauwi, tinulungan din po ng ating Migrant Workers Office yun mula pa lang sa Dubai. Karamihan po ng ng OFWs na nakauwi ay nagmula sa Dubai, at least yun ang aking tingin. Pero meron din ng galing in transit.
Ang sinasabi ko po, Sec, would this be on a regular basis na
Okay.
masahan namin?
Sen, Chair, as far as I know, meron pong susunod. Same time ng pagdating kanina. Same. Pero as I mentioned kanina, binabalanse din po yung sitwasyon. The situation is very fluid. Halimbawa, ang Etihad, alam ko po ay nagbukas pero naghinto for now. Pero itong Emirates, hopefully magpatuloy. But of course, mahirap din hong sabihin na ituloy-tuloy nila kung alam naman nilang delikado ay siguro tayo na rin po magsasabing wag muna ituloy. So, one cannot tell for sure, Mr. Chair. But as far as I know, may kasunod pong flight.
Okay, ito sa OWA, no, itong question ko. Kakasya ba yung budget ng OWA sa repatriation program ng mga OFWs natin na pagkakalam ko, correct me if I'm wrong, na 143,000 ang halaga ng bawat isang OFW na ma-repatriate papunta rin sa Pilipinas, and then ibangga nyo yan sa budget na available nyo ngayon. Would that be enough?
Sen. Rafi, yung...
Sa the number of gusto magpa-repatriate?
Yes po. Mr. Chair, magandang umaga po. Ang experience po natin sa repatriation ay habang lumalapit doon sa crisis, kumbaga doon sa emergency situation, Sen. Rafi, nagmamahal lalo. Na-experience po natin yan doon sa Sudan. Nagta-times 3 po yung presyo ng mga bus, ng mga shelter, temporary accommodation. So on the average, Sen. Rafi, kasama na po ang financial assistance kasi binibigyan din po natin yan, doon din po nakasource. Nandun po talaga sa amount na yan, mga 120 to 140,000. Sa prices po nung Feb 27, ibig sabihin bago po itong crisis na ito. Sa ngayon po, nabigyan po ang OWA doon sa Emergency Repatriation Fund, Mr. Chair, na na-mention ni Sen. Erwin po kanina ng 1.2 billion pesos. So 1.2 po, meron po kaming continuing na mga 470. Meron din po kaming regular repatriation fund sa OWA Trust Fund, mga 500. So we are talking about 2.2. Pero Sen. Rafi, Marso na ho ngayon, kaya may utilization na kami. So nasa 1.9 B po ang pera namin sa OWA for the emergency repatriation. Kung susumahin po natin sa quotation po ng mga 140,000, sa akin pong estima ay nasa around would say mga around 15,000, mga around 15,000 po na mga around 15,000 repatriation base po dun sa computation po natin na yun. Sandali lang po. Meron po akong ginawang ano dyan, Sen. Rafi.
Okay, while you are looking at your records. Tanong ko lang,
Sorry, tama po, nasa mga 15,000 po na repatriation.
okay, sige. May plano ba yung ating TMW and OWA doon sa mga kababayan natin, mga OFWs na pauwi, and then they don't want to go back anymore dahil sila ay natatakot na? Meron tayong nakahandang programa para sa kanila para hindi naman silang pagdating dito nakatunganga lang at magugutom ang kanilang pamilya. Do we have such program?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Essentially, tatlo po ang plano natin sa kanila. Sa Empleo, nandiyan dyan po ang Department of Labor for local employment purposes. Sa DMW, Overseas Employment Options. So, nagpapa-job fair tayo sa ganitong sitwasyon. Just specifically for those who hindi makapagpatuloy o na-displace. Pangalawang option po is livelihood. So, meron pong mga samot-saring government agencies, nakapulong ko po si Secretary Chris Roque nung Monday on this matter. And one of the things that she is offering would be livelihood funds, livelihood programs. In fact, nabanggit pa nga niya, particular to women, kasi Women's Month po ngayon, so naging topic namin yun. That's just an example. And then lastly, training, Mr. Chair. So nakapulong din po namin si DG Kiko Benitez ng TESDA, at siya naman, ang sabi ni DG Kiko, sabihin nyo lang, SEXA, sabi niya po sa akin, sabihin nyo lang yung mga gusto magpa-training ng libre sa amin. Upskilling, reskilling, halimbawa po, kung ang isang kasambahay ay gusto maging barista o caregiver, willing po si DG Kiko na pagpa-training. In the meantime, habang nagtitraining, Chair, bibigyan po namin ng sustento. Yun po ang basic strategy.
Thank you. Now let's move on to another topic dito sa Bagong Balikbayan Act Reintegration Program. So may mga resource persons tayo dito na gusto magbigay ng kanilang statement presentation. Let's start with Dole. Is Dole present? Okay. ASEC Adeline Castro, Legislative Liaison and Legal Affairs Cluster Dole. Sige po ma'am, make your presentation. Please don't make it long ha. Kung
Yes
pwede
po.
5 minutes.
Wala naman pong presentation, sir, but we'd just like to, of course, express our support para dun po sa proposed measure on the Balikbayan for strengthening reintegration para sa ating mga kababayan. In fact, of course, as mentioned by Sec Hans, the department is part of a network of government agencies that has been organized and established to strengthen reintegration para po sa ating mga returning OFWs and their families. And from the part of the department, in place naman po ang aming mga serbisyo, katulad ng na-mention kanina ni Sec Hans, yung aming employment facilitation services, to, of course, help together with the DMW in terms of linking our OFWs, returning OFWs with employment opportunities dito sa ating local economy. And nandiyan din po yung ating mga social protection programs and services like livelihood and emergency employment that we can mobilize based on, of course, yung mga matatanggap natin ng mga profile ng mga returnees na OFWs and ano yung mga assistance po nila. So, we just like to express our support that we are ready to collaborate and help with the DMW as part of the network of government agencies for reintegration to make sure that we're able to ensure yung productive reintegration ng ating mga OFWs when they return to the Philippines. Yes po, sir.
Thank you, Dole. Now we go to DepEd. Meron ba dito ang taga DepEd? DepEd? Comsec? Wala. Then let's move on to CHED. Meron bang representative ang CHED? Yeah, CHED, meron kayong gustong ibigay na presentation?
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Senator Rafi Tulfo, and everyone else here. The Commission on Higher Education does not only give full support to the bill filed by the Honorable Senators, but also we give our heartfelt gratitude to the filers because this is to fully operationalize our initiative of the Commission on Higher Education. We have this what we call the expanded tertiary education equivalency program, where we are going to give credit and the equivalent units to all the earned skills and competence earned by our foreign workers, Honorable Chair. And in partnership with the Department of Migrant Workers and the Department of Labor and Employment, we already started getting the survey of all our migrant workers, and based on the density of migrant workers abroad, incidentally, one of them is from the Saudi Arabia and UAE. That's the reason why, in connection with this crisis now in Middle East, Honorable Chair, we immediately send a message to everyone, calling all migrant workers in the Middle East affected that CHED is ready to embrace them by providing them necessary skills through our ITIA program and micro-credentials, so that they will be easily reintegrated in the workforce in the Philippines. So in full support, we already uploaded the online application, necessary guidelines, how to be part of the ETIAP. We have the CHED Tanaw, Honorable Chair, where they can see the different deputized higher education institution to give the equivalency program of the skills and competence that they earned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ched. Now let's move on to TESDA. Andito ba yung TESDA? Ayun, Executive Director Janet Abasolo.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Senator Raffy. I would just like to read the position of TESDA on the proposed Balikbayan Act. TESDA recognizes and holds in high regard the invaluable contribution of OFWs to the national economy. In view thereof, the agency interposes an objection to the general intent of the proposed measures. Nonetheless, TESDA respectfully submits the following inputs and comments. Specifically, Mr. Chair, one is Section D of the bill, wherein we consider the OFWs as special clients, and they are considered to be qualified for scholarship grants. So as special clients, OFWs and their dependents may be prioritized in TESDA scholarship programs, provided that they meet the eligibility requirements of the specific program. While OFWs are recognized special clients, they must still comply the established qualifications and requirements, as enrollment in a scholarship program cannot be granted without full compliance. Then on the second provision, Mr. Chair, with respect to the program of qualified OFWs to teach in an academe under Section 15, again, we poses no objection. While TESDA supports the intent to harness the valuable skills and global experience of returning OFWs, the agency emphasizes that all trainers, including OFWs, must comply with existing trainer qualification and certification requirements, specifically the National TIVET Trainer Certificate. This requirement is essential to ensure consistency, quality, and alignment with national competency standards, as well as to uphold TESDA's quality assurance framework of delivery. Once the letter is signed by our Secretary, Mr. Chair, we will officially submit the position paper from TESDA. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, TESDA. Now we go to DTI. Andito ba yung DTI?
Magandang umaga po, Ginoong Chair. Una po sa lahat, nais ko pong ipaalam sa kapulungan ito ang magandang pakikiisa at pagtutulungan sa ating Department of Migrant Workers, ganoon din po sa OWA, kasama po ang iba't ibang sangay ng ating pamahalaan. Ngayong umaga po, ang DTI po ay nakikiisa sa mga Senate bill na inyo pong ipinapanukala. At ngayong umaga, nais ko pong ipaalam sa inyo na ang DTI ay may mga programa katulad ng ating pagpapormalidad ng mga negosyo sa negosyo centers, meron po kaming mentorship program, meron din po kaming shared service facilities at financing through SB Corporation. Mr. Chair, nais ko yung ipaalam sa inyo, sir, na bago po natin isagawa ang pagpupulong na ito, patuloy ang aming pakikiisa at reintegrasyon sa iba't ibang sangay ng ating pamahalaan. Very effective po. We're more sensitive, more active, and fast-moving in terms of reintegration, Mr. Chair. And of course, ang aking pong mahal na sekretary ay talaga naman pong punong-puno ng enthusiasm at motivation dahil nararamdaman po namin ang puso ng bawat isang overseas Filipino worker. Sa ngayon po, nais ko lang ipaalam sa inyo, Mr. Chair, fully support po ang aming Department of Trade and Industry. Maraming salamat. Magandang umaga.
Thank you, DTI. Now let's go to the DILG. DILG, Attorney Noel Sala. Attorney Sala from the DILG. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning po, Mr. Chair. The department is yet to submit its official position paper to the committee. However, we would like to convey our initial position as contained in our unsigned position paper. The department conveys its full and unqualified support to the passage of the proposed Bagong Balikbayan Act as embodied in the bills. As the department, as a supervisory agency to local government units, we would like to inform this committee that the local government units have the PESO office or the Public Employment Service Office, wherein it is mandated to facilitate both the local and overseas employment in coordination with the Department of Labor and Employment and the Department of Migrant Workers. Its role regarding overseas Filipino workers focuses on recruitment, regulation, welfare protection, and pre-employment coaching, and critical reintegration assistance to our OFWs. We also would like to inform this committee that some LGUs have off-loan assistance program to assist prospective OFWs and their financial needs. Also, the department issued memorandum dated September 17, 2024, addressed to the DILG regional offices and LGUs, which enjoin the establishment of OFW help desk and local government units pursuant to the IRR of Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipino Workers Act of 1995 as amended by RA 10022. To reiterate, the department fully supports the subject legislative measures. Thank you po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, DILG. How about the DA, Department of Agriculture?
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
I can't read your name, ma'am. Please identify yourself.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'm Assistant Secretary Genevieve Velicaria Guevara of the Department of Agriculture.
Go ahead po, ASEC.
So we have yet also to submit our official position paper, but I have been authorized to state that the Department of Agriculture fully expresses its full support for the proposed bill seeking to institutionalize a comprehensive and sustainable reintegration program for overseas Filipino workers. As a member agency of the National Reintegration Network, established under the June 2025 Joint Memorandum Circular and Memorandum of Understanding signed in June 2024, the DA is and will always be committed to providing streamlined services for our returning OFWs. Our participation focuses on capacity building, which is delivering training and extension services through the Agricultural Training Institute, enterprise development, providing technical assistance and business development services through the AMAS, along with our DA banner programs and special projects. We also provide financial access, facilitating access to credit and capital through the Agricultural Credit Policy Council, ACPC, and the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation, and of course, market linkage, connecting our OFW-led enterprises to broader markets through the Agribusiness and Marketing Assistance Service. As to the proposed enhancement to the bill, I submit, Your Honor, that we will be submitting our formal comments and recommendations to these provisions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, DA. How about the DBM?
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
ASEC Leonido Pulido III. Sir, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. The DBM has yet to submit its formal position paper, Mr. Chair. We will be submitting our formal position paper as soon as possible. Be that as it may, Mr. Chair, the DBM is always supportive of any measure that would help alleviate the lives and improve the lives of our fellow countrymen. We would just like to point out, Mr. Chair, that the DBM on this matter would defer to the wisdom of the relevant agencies, the DMW, the DOLE, and the OWA. We'd also like to point out, Mr. Chair, that there is a current ongoing program based on a law passed by Congress called the Government Optimization Program, wherein in that program, Mr. Chair, the the executive is currently studying all of the sectors in government in order to see how we can improve the efficiency and remove redundancies in the executive. And so it might be helpful, Mr. Chair, for the COEB, the Committee on Optimizing the Executive Branch, to also be or to also help support this measure and provide studies and inputs as to how we can avoid further redundancies in the national government. Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, DBM. How about the Department of Finance? DOF? Meron bang representative? BSP, okay. BSP? Andito ba ang BSP?
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Director Marian Santos, ma'am, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and the committee members. So we will submit, Mr. Chair, our comments on the bill after this session, but the BSP is in full support of this proposed Bagong Balikbayan Bill, which seeks to establish a comprehensive, integrated, and sustainable reintegration program for returning OFWs. The proposed measure is aligned with the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion 2022 to 2028, which prioritize financial education and consumer protection for vulnerable sectors, such as, of course, our migrant workers. In line with this mandate, Mr. Chair, and its long-standing partnership with DMW and OWA, the BSP is a member of the National Reintegration Network, which was formed in 2025. And through this partnership, Mr. Chair, the BSP has been implementing financial education interventions for OFWs and as well as their families. Through the Pitaka program or the Pinansyal na Talino at Kaalaman program, Mr. Chair, this is in partnership with DMW and OWA. It integrates financial literacy across the migration cycle, which would include pre-migration, pre-departure, and reintegration to support informed financial decision-making, prudent remittance management, and preparation for sustainable livelihood po, Mr. Chair, upon return. And this approach aligns with the bill's full-cycle reintegration framework and reinforces financial education as a continuing and progressive capacity-building intervention rather than one-time seminar, Mr. Chair. We will submit, Mr. Chair, our comments further for the...
Thank you, BSP. How about DICT? Andito bang DICT? Wala? Okay. DOH, Department of Health.
Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga, Mr. Chair, Senator Raffy at Senator Erwin. Suportado po ng Department of Health ang layunin ng panukalang Bagong Balikbayan Act na naglalayong magtatag ng isang komprehensibo at napapanatiling reintegration framework para sa ating mga manggagawang Pilipino sa ibang bansa. Mula sa pananaw ng pampublikong kalusugan, ang reintegration ay hindi lamang isang economic o labor issue, kundi pati na rin isang isyung pangkalusugan at social protection. Maraming mga bumabalik na OFW ang nahaharap sa mga hindi nagagamot na kondisyong medikal, mga panganib sa kalusugan ng trabaho na nakuha sa ibang bansa, at psychosocial stress na nauugnay sa migration at pagkahiwalay sa pamilya. Ang pagtugon sa mga alalahaning ito ay mahalaga sa DOH upang matiyak na ang mga bumabalik na manggagawa ay makakabangon, makakabawi at makakabalik ng ganap sa kanilang mga pamilya at komunidad. Ang hakbang na ito ay naaayon din sa mga umiiral na mga pambansang patakaran tulad ng Universal Healthcare Act at Mental Health Act na nag-aatas sa Estado na tiyakin ang komprehensibong mga serbisyo sa kalusugan at kalusugang pangkaisipan para sa lahat ng Pilipino, kabilang ang mga migrant workers at mga bumabalik na Pilipino. Mr. Chair, ang mga kamakailang kaganapan sa gitnang silangan ay higit na nagbibigay diin sa kahalagahan ng pagkakaroon ng isang malinaw na reintegration framework. Dahil sa malaking bilang ng mga Pilipinong na-deploy sa rehiyon, ang tumitinding tensyon ay maaaring magresulta sa mga sitwasyon kung saan ang mga bumabalik na OFW ay nangangailangan ng medical screening, psychosocial support at pagpapatuloy ng pangangalaga pagkabalik nila dito sa ating bansa. Bilang paghahanda sa mga ganitong sitwasyon, pinangungunahan na suportahan ng DOH kasama ng DMW ang koordinasyon sa sektor ng kalusugan upang suportahan ang mga bumabalik na Pilipino. Kasabay nito, kinikilala rin po ng DOH na ang reintegration ay dapat ding magsama ng mga daan pabalik sa produktibong trabaho. Sa pakikipagtulungan sa iba pang mga ahensya ng gobyerno tulad ng DOLE at ng TESDA, sinusuportahan ng DOH ang mga inisyatibo tulad ng mga job fair at mga aktibidad sa recruitment na nag-uugnay sa mga bumabalik na OFW sa mga oportunidad sa trabaho sa sektor ng kalusugan. Marami ho tayo, Mr. Chair, mga healthcare workers na nakadeploy doon. Kabilang ang mga posisyon sa mga ospital ng DOH, mga treatment and rehabilitation centers, at iba pang mga health facilities at opisina sa buong bansa. Dahil sa mga kadahilanang ito, kinikilala ng DOH ang kahalagahan ng panukalang batas na ito bilang isang hakbang tungo sa institutionalization ng isang mekanismo ng buong gobyerno para sa reintegration na nangangalaga hindi lamang sa kapakanang pang-ekonomiya, kundi pati na rin sa kalusugan at kagalingan ng ating mga bumabalik na manggagawa at ng kanilang mga pamilya. Isusumiti po namin ang pirmado at detalyadong position paper ng DOH sa lalong madaling panahon. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair, Honorable Senators.
Okay, before we go to a 1-minute suspension, DSWD naman, meron ba DSWD dito? Yeah, ASEC Zabedin Aziz. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, colleagues in the government sector and partners in the private sector. Magandang umaga po. The DSWD recognizes the significant contribution of the overseas Filipino workers in the nation economy and the vital role in upgrading the living standards of their families. However, the challenges of reintegration upon the return to the Philippines are equally pressing. That is why the DSWD supports legislative measures aimed at facilitating the sustainable reintegration of returning OFWs, as this align with our mandate to protect vulnerable population and promote their well-being. The DSWD's mandate includes the protection and empowerment of marginalized and vulnerable sectors of society. This encompasses various groups, including returning OFWs who may face socio-economic challenges after returning from overseas employment. Our commitment is to develop and implement programs that provide social protection, welfare services, and support system to help this individual reintegrate successfully into their community. For the record, Mr. Chairman, the DSWD has a specific office on this issue, the DSWD International Service, Social Service Office, which has been transitioned to the DMW when it was created. Now, on the specific social assistance of the DSWD, we have one is the inclusion of returning FWs in existing social protection program. We have the provision on psychosocial first aid and case management, the community-based support and family development interventions, and the convergence and referral mechanism. And there are also regular programs being undertaken by the DSWD. We have the social pension program for senior citizens who came from abroad. Then we have the solo parents, the insurance of travel clearance certificate for minors traveling abroad, and then of course we have the sustainable livelihood program and that provide assistance, and the AIX that provide assistance for medical, educational, funeral, transportation, food, gas, family food pack, hygiene, and sleeping kits, including assistive devices. We also have the newly installed Wi-Fi support for mental health psychosocial support. Mr. Chairman, in fact, with respect to the incident now in the Middle East, our secretary immediately made the initiative of closely coordinating with the Secretary of the MW and the Department of Public Affairs, recommending for a holistic approach in addressing the issue that is going on in the Middle East. That's all for today, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we proceed to the labor groups, let's have a 1-minute suspension. From the labor groups, let's start with Amasup. Amasup, are you present? Are you here? Yes, sir. And your name, anong pangalan niyo po, sir?
Mr. Chair, Attorney Henry Zamora, Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
from
Attorney Henry
Amasup.
Zamora. Sige po, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The Associated Marine Officers and Seamen's Union of the Philippines fully supports this legislation because we believe that this will directly benefit all our members, not only our members, but also all the ocean-going seafarers in general. Filipino seafarers will have options after their life at sea, and they will feel that the government will continue to support them after they decide not to continue their employment on board the vessel. That is why we really agree and really support without any conditions with the legislation of this headed by Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat po, Attorney Zamora ng Amasup. How about JMG? JMG? Anong pangalan niyo po, sir?
Magandang umaga, sir.
Ayun.
Good morning. I'm Captain Ronald Enrile from the Joint Manning Group. And our group fully supports the bagong Balikbayan Act. And this will actually help. Makakatulong po ito ng malaki sa ating mga seafarers na bumabalik. At ang isa lamang po naming hiling ay sana ho yung reintegration, magamit ho yung mga experience ng ating mga seafarers pag bumabalik. Lalo po sa maritime industry, yung pag-modernize ng ating domestic shipping, malaki po ang maitutulong ng ating mga experienced overseas Filipino seafarers. Maraming salamat.
Thank you po, JMG. Ngayon naman, pakinggan natin ang PAME. Dito ba yung PAME?
Sir, we are the same. We are part
same.
of the Joint Manning Group. PAME and is
Okay,
part of the
PAME.
Joint Manning
PAME.
Group, sir.
Ayos mo naman writing mo. And next is the Coalition of Licensed Agencies, or CLADS.
Good afternoon,
Go ahead po.
Mr. Chair, Senator Tulfo.
Kayo po si Ma'am Lucita
Yes po.
Sermonia. Sige po, go ahead po.
If you're supporting the integration. Yeah, we as CLADS, we fully support the reintegration program for the Balikbayan. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Salamat po. How about sa PASEI, Service Exporters?
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Chair and distinguished
Ma'am Rowena Paragas, go ahead po, ma'am.
committee members and our government partners and stakeholders. And I'm Rowena Paragas from PASEI. The Philippine Association of Service Exporters, Inc. expresses its strong support for the proposed Bagong Balikbayan Act, which aims to establish a comprehensive, integrated, and sustainable reintegration program for overseas Filipino workers returning to the Philippines. PASEI recognizes that the integration is a critical phase in the migration cycle. Many OFWs return home with valuable skills, knowledge, and experience gained abroad, yet some face challenges in transitioning back into the local workforce or establishing sustainable livelihoods. Those challenges are even greater for workers who return unexpectedly due to displacement, economic disruptions, or crisis in host countries. For this reason, PASEI supports legislative measures that institutionalize a structured integration framework that will help returning OFWs rebuild their lives and contribute productively to the Philippine economy. Even prior to the proposed Balikbayan Act, PASEI has been actively participating in the integration efforts for displaced and returning OFWs. The association continuously coordinates with employers' associations and industry partners to explore possible employment opportunities and redeployment options for affected workers. At the same time, PASEI works closely with government agencies such as OWA and TESDA to connect returning OFWs with skills training, retraining, and livelihood program. PASEI believes that effective reintegration requires strong collaboration between government agencies and private sector and recruitment agencies. By institutionalizing a coordinated reintegration program, the Bagong Balikbayan Act will strengthen existing initiatives and provide a more sustainable system of support for returning migrant workers. For this reason, PASEI fully supports the passage of the Balikbayan Act and remains committed to working with government partners and stakeholders to ensure the OFW receive meaningful opportunities for the integration, sustainable employment, and continued participation in national development. Thank you.
Thank you, PASEI. And now let's hear from European Chamber of Commerce. European Chamber of Commerce. You're not present anymore. And lastly, ang CSC, Civil Service Commission.
Thank you very much. Good morning po, Mr. Chair, Senator Tulfo.
And your
I'm Assistant Commissioner Ariel Ronquillo po.
Go ahead po,
from
Attorney
Civil
Ronquillo,
Service
sir.
Commission. Yes, sir. The Civil Service Commission fully supports this measure. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Chair, the CSC is currently working on its own measures to give our returning OFWs the chance to have a career in government. For example, the CSC is working on a measure that will give our balikbayans the priority slots in the taking of civil service examinations, both for professional and sub-professional level. And after the examinations, if unfortunately they will not obtain the passing mark, they will be given a preferential rating of additional 10 points to be added to their rating for purposes of giving them a chance to reach the passing mark. But only if
So, ibig
they...
sabihin, bigyan silang plus 10.
Plus 10 if the score is 70.
Yes.
70. A maximum of 10 points, Mr. Chair. But maximum, meaning that if the score is more than 70, they will only be given the needed points.
Eh, paano kung 90 sila? Di, wala
No
nin-
more.
Wala ng 10.
But for those who are already eligibles and for those who will make it already, the different vacancies po in all government agencies are posted in the CSC job portal. They can search for positions where their qualifications may fit. And every September, in the celebration of Philippine Civil Service Anniversary, the Civil Service Commission holds a nationwide job fair for those who are interested to work in government.
Yeah, that's very important, Attorney Ronquillo, kasi marami sa ating mga OFW na biyasa na sila sa kanilang trabaho sa abroad, kung ano man yung posisyon na ibigay sa kanila for so many years, they spend so much time in it. Then pagbalik dito ng bansa, they want to get into the government service. Ang magiging hurdle lang dyan, kung maipasangan nila o hindi.
Opo.
Maganda yung programa ninyo, kapag bumagsak, bibigyan sila ng plus 10. Pero pag pasado na sila, hindi na sila bigyan ng plus.
Hindi na po.
So, maganda yung ganong klaseng programa. Talaga namang kinukonsider natin silang mga bagong bayani. So, that's how we treat what we call bagong bayani, who's helped our economy, like what Senator Erwin said, for a long
Yes, sir.
time. So, they deserve a very special treatment and consideration, which you guys are doing it now. Salamat po.
Yes, sir.
Salamat po. Meron pang ako OFW. Nandito si Dr. Celerino Umandap.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning po, sir.
I'm Dr. Chi Umandap, isa pong OFW from Kuwait, simula pa po noong 1993. Unang-una, Mr. Chair, gusto lang po namin ipahiwatig at ipaalam sa inyo yung aming lubos na pasasalamat sa inyo po bilang aming boses sa katotohanan na, Mr. Chair. Kung ang tinuturing po ninyong bagong bayani ay mga OFW, ang katotohanan, kayo po yung tinuturing naming bayani ng mga bagong bayani dahil kayo po ang naging tunay na boses naming mga OFW. Simula po kasi nung kayo ay nagpaka-involve ng gusto sa mga concerns ng OFW, nagkaroon ng linaw lagi ang lahat ng aming kahilingan. And tungkol naman po dito sa Balikbayan, bagong Balikbayan Act, Mr. Chair, gusto po naming i-express ang aming strong support sa act na ito, sa inyo pong panukala, provided, Mr. Chair, na wag po sana na mag-focus ang reintegration sa mga cash assistance. Wag sanang mag-focus masyado dun sa mga loan programs lang. Currently, Mr. Chair, napakaganda po ng programa ng OWA. Sa katotohanan, yung programa, yung tulong puso, yung balikbayan, balik manggagawa program nila na 20,000, napakadami po talaga na naanuhan. Pero i-share ko lang po, Mr. Chair, na isa sa mga experiences po natin diyan dahil ako po yung laging nagbibigay ng recommendation sa OWA. Meron pong pagkakataon, pagkatanggap po ng 20,000, pinadalan ko pa ng GCash para sa pamasahe para makapunta lang sa OWA. Pagkatanggap ng 20,000, Mr. Chair, sa susunod na Facebook na nakita ko sa kanya, nakapost sa, kasi hindi siya makapunta ng OWA, walang pamasahe. Pero pagkatapos na matanggap yung cash assistance, nasa OWA, meron ng couple shirts silang magsyota. So hindi nagagamit. Kaya nga, Mr. Chair, ang mas prepared namin, Mr. Chair, na merong yung structural na OFW-owned enterprise that includes, halimbawa, for example, Mr. Chair, yung mobile enterprise. Yung mga food cart na coffee shop, food cart na karinderya, food cart na bakery, food cart na parmasya. Wala pong pagkalugi po kasi yun, Mr. Chair. Kapag halimbawa hindi kumita sa isang lugar yun, ilipat mo sa harap ng simbahan tuwing linggo, kikita na siya. Ilipat mo sa palengke, kikita na siya. At the same time, doon sa programang Tulong Puso, Mr. Chair, ako po kasi yung principal proponent po ng OWA Tulong Puso, nung ako po ay Board of Trustee ng OWA. Maganda pong programa po yan, pero ang problema po dyan, kapag ka nag-away-away yung organisasyon, may iwanan po yung naghihiwa-hiwalay, wala na pong mababawi po doon ng OWA. Samantala, kung ang reintegration program na pagtutulong-tulungan ng TESDA, ng DTI, ay mga food cart, mga food truck, pag halimbawa po, hindi na po interesado yung OFW, pwede pong mabawi uli ito ng gobyerno, ng OWA, para ibigay naman sa panibagong OFW na mas may interest o mo talaga maghanap buhay. At kinakailangan, Mr. Chair, bago ka makakuha ng food cart, kailangan magkaroon ka o mag-undergo ka ng training mula sa TESDA. Kung halimbawa, food cart mo ay coffee shop, dapat may training ka muna sa TESDA. Para magkaroon ng pagpapatuloy, ang konsepto, Mr. Chair, yung katulad din ng ginawa ni Mayor Isko Moreno, na pagkalimbawang nabayaran, nagkaroon ka ng condominium, yung condominium niya, pagkalimbawang nagkaroon ka na ng sarili mong bahay, balik mo na uli sa gobyerno. Yan din po yung konsepto po, Mr. Chair, ng ating food cart. Kaya nga, yun po ang aming hinihiling. Masaya po ang mga OFW, Mr. Chair, na nabibigyan ng cash. As a matter of fact, Mr. Chair, ngayon, kanina sinasabi ni Administrator P.Y. Kaunan na sa estimate po nila, 15,000 OFWs ang pwede nila mapauwi. Pero kung mapapansin niyo po, Mr. Chair, alam ko naman active kayo sa social media. Kumakalat po ngayon sa social media, panawagan, announcement ng mga OFW. Kapag sumama ka sa reintegration program, 150,000 matatanggap po sa Pilipinas. Kukulangan na po yung 15,000 na po na yan. Kasi mali na po yung balita, 15,000 daw po. 150,000 ang ibibigay daw po na cash assistance. Kumakalat na po sa social media po yan.
Can you answer that?
Mr. Chair, we have issued a denial, clarification, Mr. Chair. Ang sabi nga ho namin, magulo na yung sitwasyon. Marami pa ho nagugulo, Mr. Chair.
That's true, I agree.
Opo. So we clarified, meron po talaga mga programa ang OWA at ang DMW. Pero ito pong 150,000, wala po kaming announcement ni Secretary Hans ngayon na ganyan. Kaya po, delikado yung mga ganyang announcement. Lalong-lalo na, Mr. Chair, sabi nyo nga po, we have 2.4 million overseas Filipinos in the Middle East. Ang focus po natin, safety nila, at kung makakauwi sila sa bansa, makakabuti po yan, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Nabanggit kanina ni Mr. Mandap, Dr. Mandap, na which I really do agree 100%, na may mga OFWs tayo na pag-uwi dito, wag lang natin bigyan ng pera para bumili ng groceries, whatever. Bigyan natin sila ng tulong na para magkaroon ng negosyo. Now, of course, hindi naman madali magnegosyo. Halimbawa, yung isang OFW natin na wala siyang experience sa pagninegosyo pero gusto niyang pumasok sa negosyo. So, dapat merong programa ang DTI para turuan sila, not only test yung tungkol sa accounting, inventory, marketing, yung mga small business enterprise.
And also farming, Mr. Chair.
Di DTI, meron bang ganong klaseng programa? Kayo?
Mr. Chair, meron po kaming ganong programa, sir. Sa kasalukuyan BISMED na nangangasiwa ng mga training.
Ano po tawag? BISMED?
BISMED po.
Acronym yan, which means?
Small Business Program para po sa mga nagbabalik na mga overseas
So meron
workers.
kayong tie-up sa OWA and
Yes po,
DFW?
meron po kami.
And what kind of program? Can you describe furthermore?
Para din po yung pagbibigay ng expertise at saka dun sa business model, pina-formalize po namin yung mga small businesses. Like, kailangan po magkaroon sila ng registration po ng kanilang maliit na hanap buhay. Pinibigyan po namin sila ng financial literacy. Napakahalaga po kasi pag minsan sa liit ng puhunan, kailangan po nilang mapalawak, mapahaba pa, masustain yung maliit na puhunan. At kung minsan po talaga namang napapalago nila, minomonitor po namin yon. At ang amin pong mga negosyo center po sa iba't ibang sangay ng lokal na pamahalaan ay nagkukondak po ng mga seminar, training, na ito po ay umaabot sa mga barangay level kung saan po naroroon yung mga maliliit na naghahanap buhay.
At very important din, DTI, ASEC, tulungan sila kung papaano makapag-acquire ng mga requirements to start a business kasi meron iba na they don't know where to start. Saan sila munang umpisa? Ba sila sa munisipyo?
Yeah.
Umpisa ba sila sa DTI o barangay, etc.?
Yes po, ginagawa po namin yun at lalo pa naming palalawagin sa panawagan po ng Mr. Chair. At yan po ay nagaganap sa negosyo center sa bawat LGU ng lokal na pamahalaan, lungsod at munisipalidad, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair. Idagdag ko lang, sir.
Go ahead, Dr.
Hindi po. Meron pa po, sir, pahintulit niyo po. Bukod pa po doon, kasi pinag-uusapan naman po at kaya actually, Mr. Chair, iniwanan ko po yung cremation ng kapatid ko ngayong araw dahil gusto ko lang i-address lang po ito masiguro dahil ito po yung namatay po kasi yung kapatid ko kahapon. Anyway,
po kami, sir.
Salamat po. Isa pa idagdag ko lang since reintegration ang pinag-usapan po, Mr. Chair. Kasalukuyan po yung reintegration po, hawak po yan ng NRCO, yung National Reintegration Council for OFWs. Since naandito po, Mr. Chair, yung lahat ng napaka-importanting ahensya, baka po pwedeng ang reintegration po ay hawakan ng interagency na reintegration program na naandun ang TESDA, naandun ang DTI, hindi lamang OWA. Hindi dapat na pondo lamang ng OWA ang ginagamit sa reintegration. Dapat lahat ng pondo ng agency.
That's exactly what we're gonna do.
Yes, sir.
Dito sa bill na ipapasa po namin.
And lastly, Mr. Chair, ayoko namang lastly, Mr. Chair, pinag-uusapan po yung gusto ko lang iparating ito dahil ito po yung gustong iparating ng mga OFW. Ang katotohanan, marami pong nananawagan na po sa reintegration. Pero ang katotohanan, Mr. Chair, hindi po yan ang gusto ng mga OFWs.
Ano pong gusto ng mga OFWs?
Ang kinakailangan, kasi base po ito sa aming experience, Mr. Chair, nung panahon na naandun ako sa Kuwait, hindi po agad-agad na reintegration ang hinihingi po namin.
Ano po
kasi marami pong mga OFWs ang natatakot iwanan ng kanilang trabaho. Ang gusto lang po nila ay isang malinaw na talagang alam talaga nila na contingency plan, yung exit plan. Kasalukuyan po meron pong sinasabi po nga ni Secretary na merong exit plan. Pero yun po ay ang nakakaalam po yun mga agency ay mga embassy. Kami po nung araw napakahusay po ng aming embassy noon. Immediately, nung nagkaroon ng putok sa Kuwait, nagpatawag kagad ng PhilCom meeting yung embahada. In-identify sino ang in charge para sa tubig, sino in charge para sa pagkain, bawat organization in-involve. So, meron din po kami na-identify kagad o saan ang meeting place natin. So, na-identify namin dito sa Cooperative Society, yan po yung mga supermarket, o nasaan ang mga bus. Pagdating po ng bus, hindi po pwede natin sabihin na meron na po tayong kakontratang kumpanyang bus. Hindi po, kasi po yung mga driver po na ibang lahi, tatakas din po yan. Ang pinag-usapan namin, naging desisyon, base na rin po sa aking rekomendasyon, hanapin natin, ilista lahat ng mga Pilipinong nagtatrabaho sa mga bus company, automatic, ikukumander ninyo yung bus, dadalhin nyo doon sa mga cooperative society, isasakay ang mga Pilipino. Ngayon, ang ginawa po ng Philippine Embassy, alam niyo po ang ginawa ng Philippine Embassy, nagpunta doon sa mga boundaries ng papuntang Saudi Arabia. In-identify nila pati kung saan kami magtatayo ng tent. Alam na po namin kung saan namin kukunin yan. Alam namin kung saan namin kukunin ng tent. Alam namin kung saan namin ilalagay yung mga tent. Alam namin kung saan ang daan namin. Kasi po, yung experience po ng kapatid ko, nung unang gera po, tumakas sila ng Kuwait, napunta sila papusok ng Iraq. Mas na problema sila. Kaya nga, nung ako na po yung nagsasalita, in-identify na po namin lahat ng exit point.
2 more minutes, sir. Sige.
Yes, sir. Yun lang po, Mr. Chair. Ang gusto po ng mga OFW, malinaw na exit point na ngayon pa lang pinag-uusapan na at dapat i-involve ang mga Filipino community sa usapin na po na para mas mabilis, para hindi po sila mangangamba. Kaya po nila inaabil yung reintegration dahil hindi nila alam kung saan sila pupunta. Yun lang po, maraming salamat, Mr. Chair.
I do agree with you, Dr. Celerino Umandap. Kaya kanina pag-usapan po natin yun, yung mga plano, exit plan, binanggit na po kanina in length ng DMW at saka ng OWA. Thank you po sa inyong point na ibinigay sa amin ngayon, Dr. Umandap. We now proceed to the proposed Migrant Workers Relations Commission Act. In this case, let's listen to the position of NLRC. NLRC? Si Attorney Hernan Nicdao.
Magandang hapon po, Mr. Chair.
Magandang hapon po, Attorney.
Magandang hapon po sa ating mga, umaga pa pala, sorry, sa ating mga kasamang kawani sa pamahalaan at mga kasama mula sa pribadong sektor. As a brief background po, Mr. Chair, una po sa lahat pala, we subscribe to the wisdom of, the NLRC subscribe to the wisdom of the Congress in coming up with a bill creating the Migrant Workers Relations Commission. As a brief background po, in 1995 or more than 30 years ago po, ang jurisdiction po sa mga kaso regarding money claims and illegal dismissal ng ating mga OFWs is with the POEA. Pero nung pong pinasa po yung Migrant Workers Law noong 1995, which is RA 8042, tinanggal po yon sa POEA at dinala po sa NLRC. So after 30 years po, yung performance naman po ng NLRC will speak for itself with respect dun po sa kanyang disposition ng mga kaso ng OFWs. Una po sa lahat, ang OFW cases po na nasa NLRC ay around mga 3,600 plus per year, which is around mga 14% po ng aming total annual caseload. So mabilis naman po ang aming disposition ng cases. Meron po kaming tinatawag na process cycle time na 9 months sa ating mga labor arbitration offices at pag-appeal po sa commission nagiging 6 months po ito. Nasa 98% to 99% po ang ating compliance sa process cycle time na ito. In fact po, sa ating mga labor arbitration offices, nasa 75% po ang compliance nila ay ang disposition po nila within 3 months. Kaya nga po lately inaaral po natin sa NLRC na NBank na baka po maaaring bilisan pa sa baka gawin na lang standard na po yung 3 months pero titingnan po natin yung kapasidad ng ating mga labor arbiters.
Okay, makasingit lang po, Attorney
Yes po.
Nicdao. You did mention 14% lang ng backlog
Yes po.
ninyo or caseload
po.
Caseload ninyo ang pertains to OFWs.
Yes po.
Ilan po yan sa numbers, yung 14%?
Mga 3,700 per year po on the average.
3,700 per year. At anong mga kaso to? Anong mga complaints? Itong 3,500?
Tatlong klase po usually ang OFW cases. Sa land-based po, kasama rin ng sea-based, kadalasan po yung illegal dismissal cases. Kasi po kahit po OFW sila, sila rin po ay protektado ng security of tenure ng ating labor code. So, within the period po ng kanilang kontrata, hindi po sila pwedeng i-terminate without just or authorized cause. So, illegal dismissal po. Monetary claims, kung halimbawa pong meron silang mga sweldo at benepisyo na hindi binibigay po sa kanila. Particular po sa ating mga seafarers, yung ikatlong klase po ng kaso ay yung kanilang mga tinatawag na disability benefits. Na pag sila po ay nagkaroon ng permanent disability, meron po silang insurance claim na makukuha mula sa kanilang kumpanya.
So itong 3,500 cases na pumapasok sa inyo every year, sabi mo nga, 14, which amounts to 14% ng caseload ninyo. Ilan dito ang talagang nabibigyan ng solusyon, nabibigyan ng nare-resolve in a matter of, you did mention also 9 months, right? 9 months, nasusolve nyo na?
Ang process cycle time po ng aming labor arbiters within 9 months po nare-resolve dapat. So, 98% po nakukomply yun. Pero, in particular po sa OFWs, dahil meron po kami...
Sabi mo kanina 3,500.
Yes po.
Okay. Sa 3,500 every single year, ilan po ang na-resolve ninyo ng mga kaso? Ng OFWs lang, ha?
Mga 98% po nun. So,
98%?
Yes po, yes po. In 9 months, within a 9-month period po.
Within 9 months?
Yes po.
Sure ka niya?
Sa iba nga...
Can you send me the data of that?
Yes po, yes po. Fina-finalize lang po namin yung aming, ilalagay po namin yun sa aming position paper. Sa ibang kadalasan nga, sa 75% of the time nga po, within 3 months natatapos po ng aming mga labor arbiters yung kaso.
Wow, if you're telling the truth, that's impeccable.
Katotohanan po yun, hindi naman po ako.
Hindi,
Yes po.
sorry sir, I'm not saying that you're lying.
Yes po.
What I'm trying to say here is, I'm impressed pero may mga OFWs kasi pumunta sa akin. In fact, nung nag-visit nga ako doon, ang tagal-tagal daw, hindi sila naasikaso. And yun yung sentiments ng ibang mga OFWs na nagko-comment or nagpapadala sa akin ng emails.
Nung
Na
napag-usapan...
napapabayaan daw sila. At sinabi nila, sir, sana sir, ihiwalay na lang kami sa NLRC. Huwag nyo na kami isama dyan. Kasi kung yung mga regular nga namang kaso, yun yung sentimento ng maraming OFWs lumalapit sa programa ko po.
Ganito po, I think nag-usap po tayo nung dumalaw po kayo sa amin sa NLRC. Nagkakaroon po kasi, pinag-usapan po natin yung kasi meron po yung Senalo na sa Senalo po, kailangan 2 beses at least na magkakaroon muna ng conciliation mediation. Tapos po, mandatory rin po sa labor code na magkakaroon pa ng 2 beses pa uli na conciliation mediation.
Okay.
So, doon po yung medyo tumatagal. Pero po yung 3 months na sinasabi ko, upon filing na po yun ng kanilang arbitration case. So, upon filing po yun. Hindi po yun upon the submission of the position papers. Upon filing po yun. So, natapos na po yung submission ng position papers, etc. Tapos po within 3 months po, didesisyonan po ng arbiter
Okay,
po namin.
sige sir. Lastly na lang. I'm really very excited and interested dun sa sinabi mong figures na sa 3,500 na mga kaso ng OFWs every year, nabibigyan nyo ng solusyon, 98% of that. Now, doon sa natitirang 2%, ano itong mga kasong ito? Ba't hindi nyo nagiging 100%? I know it's impossible do. Pero ano nga, curious lang ko, ano itong 2% na hindi nyo nabibigyan solusyon after 1 year?
Hindi, after 9 months po. Sir, 9 months lang.
9 months, okay, pinaiksi mo pa. What are these cases?
Yes po, hindi naman po sa minsan lang po meron sigurong mga kadahilanan yung ating labor arbiters, hindi kaagad na re-resolve. Yun lang po yun. Hindi lang po sila natatapos within the 9-month period. Pero yun po kasing 9-month period, yun po yung aming self-imposed po na deadline para po i-resolve.
Kasi
yung
di ba
kaso.
pag illegal dismissal ang reklamo ng isang OFW at ang amo niya ay nasa abroad, di ba papasok yun sa DMW at OWA na habulin nila yung amo nila o through the agency para mabayaran yung OFWs natin.
Yun pong...
di ba mas effective, sorry para sa akin, mas they're in a better position, the OWA and the DMW, to go after dun sa mga amo nila na hindi nagbayad sa mga OFWs, and then they can also go to the agents, agency na nag-hire.
Sa batas po natin kasi, dahil po talagang yung chance naman po na mahabol yung principal sa abroad next to 0, ang maaari pong habulin ng OFW ay yung agency po na nagpadala po sa kanila rito. So, dahil naman po yung agency natin, under the law rin po, meron po silang kailangan na bond na pinuput up, mas madali po yung pong problema po natin sa execution rate natin sa mga local cases, hindi po yun problema sa OFW cases. Mas mabilis po ang execution, ibig sabihin pag makuha po ng award ng mga OFWs natin sa kanilang kaso, yung kanilang napanalunan. Kasi nga po, meron naman pong bond ang ating mga agencies na mga license ng DMW para po kung halimbawa pong kung magkulang po yon pinakukumpleto po ng DMW, so madali po na makuha yung award ng ating mga OFWs.
Thank you, sir. And now let's hear from the NCMB. NCMB, magandang umaga po.
Magandang umaga, Mr. Chair. The NCMB would like to communicate our support to the proposal's core objectives of ensuring easy access to timely, fair, and just settlement or resolution of labor employment disputes. However, on the proposal for the creation of a new quasi-judicial and dedicated procedures for OFWs, we request for the consideration of the following points. Number one, on the equal protection and constitutional considerations, all Filipino workers, whether employed locally or overseas, are covered by the Philippine Labor Dispute Resolution System. The system is anchored on the existence of an employer-employee relationship, which serves as the indispensable legal basis for enforcing rights and obligations under employment contracts, collective bargaining agreements, and national labor and employment laws. Locally, the employer-employee relationship is determined through the fourfold test. In the case of OFWs, the principal-agent relationship principle is observed by requiring that only Philippine licensed private recruitment or manning agencies may engage in overseas employment programs, and by law are held jointly and severally liable as employers with their foreign principals who are beyond the country's jurisdiction. Whether the worker is employed overseas or locally becomes immaterial. Both parties, the worker and employer, as represented by the agency, must enforce their respective rights and obligations under the employment contract, collective bargaining agreement, and national and labor and employment laws. Therefore, introducing a specialized and exclusive quasi-judicial body solely for OFWs, predicated on concerns for delays, created a significant distinction. Such departure from the well-established unified labor dispute resolution system is contrary to the Equal Protection Clause under Section 1, Article 3 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, as it treats one class of employees differently, dispute the shared legal foundation of their employment status. On our second point, sir, on the jurisdictional shift and labor code. Presently, the NLRC handles all cases involving Filipino migrant workers. The proposed bill would effectively transfer this jurisdiction from the NLRC to the MWRC to address the delayed, protracted, and burdensome processes. The legislation proposes a significant structural change to the existing labor code of the Philippines, which currently centralizes these powers within the NLRC. The following may be the challenges. Disruption of established authority. The NLRC has long been the central body under the Labor Code for adjudicating labor disputes, including those involving the OFWs. Transferring the jurisdiction alters a deeply entrenched legal framework that may raise questions about consistency in rulings and continuity of jurisprudence. Another point is risk of fragmentation. Well, the proposed MWRC is envisioned as a specialized body. Creating a separate jurisdiction could fragment labor dispute resolution. Employers, workers, and lawyers may face confusion over which body has authority, especially during the transition period. Transitional case handling. Ongoing cases of the NLRC could be disrupted if jurisdiction is suddenly shifted. Rules for transferring or continuing these cases must be carefully crafted to protect due process and avoid injustice. And another point, sir, which the NCMB is noting is evaluation against the current matrix. The rationale for creating the MWRC must consider first, annual budgetary requirements relative to the volume of OFW cases to be handled. And another one is the disposition or settlement rate existing under
under existing OFW labor dispute resolution mechanisms. The disposition rates for voluntary arbitration cases involving OFWs in 2024 and 2025 were 82.27% and 77.55% respectively, while settlement rates stood at 55.58% and 57.95% for the same periods. Of the total cases in 2024 and 2025, OFW-related claims accounted for 96.15% and 95.98% respectively. This shows that labor disputes involving OFWs can be handled and resolved efficiently without expanding the bureaucracy. Another point is on the bipartite and the voluntary arbitration framework considerations. Rather than creating a new bureaucracy, a more viable approach would be to strengthen existing mechanisms and define procedures to address concerns regarding delays and burdensome processes. Enhancing the current framework adequately resolves these issues without the need for additional budgetary requirements. The framework is built upon a well-defined three-stage processes such as the bipartite mechanisms, the third-party intervention through conciliation, mediation, or arbitration, and judicial review. Our position papers, sir, enumerated these procedures, and I will not read them anymore. But the until the voluntary, I will not read them anymore, but we're just advocating that there are existing mechanisms which we can strengthen and improve on. Another point is alignment with the Government Optimization Act. The creation of the MWRC must be aligned with the governing principles set out in RA 12231 or the Government Optimization Act, which through the Committee on Optimizing the Executive Branch shall eliminate overlapping functions, not necessarily to reduce the workforce, but to focus on restructuring to improve service delivery. Our other specific comments is on the process and periods. The last paragraph of Section 24 of the proposed bill provides that in cases where there is collective bargaining agreement among the parties, the pertinent provisions of the CBA pertaining to dispute resolution shall prevail. The parties may appeal the decision on voluntary arbitration to the Commission. This provision requires further clarification as it contradicts the current Article 276 of the Labor Code of the Philippines as amended and sets aside settled jurisprudence. Under the existing law, the VA decision becomes final and executory after 10 calendar days from receipt of the parties unless appealed to the Court of Appeals in accordance with Rule 43 of the Rules of Court. The Supreme Court in Luzon Development Bank versus Association of Luzon Development Bank Employees ruled that VAs are quasi-judicial officers, and thus the proper forum for the review of their decision is the Court of Appeals. And lastly, on Section 33 of the proposed bill, it provides that DMW, in consultation with the DBM, the CSC, DOLE, and the NLRC, shall promulgate the implementing rules and regulations within 90 days from the passage of this Act. We suggest, sir, the inclusion of the NCMB among the agencies who may be involved in the crafting of the implementing rules. Our recommendation, in view of the foregoing considerations, the NCMB respectfully submits for the reconsideration of the proposed creation of the MWRC. In view of establishing a new quasi-judicial body, the NCMB advocates for a comprehensive review and harmonization of existing procedures for resolving labor disputes. By amending current protocols to eliminate redundancies, the government can directly address the delays and burdensome processes faced by the OFWs while maintaining the integrity of the well-established labor dispute resolutions. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you, Deputy Executive Director Teresita Odia ng NCMB. Magandang hapon